and welcome back to the European Development Championship. I almost said esports, but I suppose that is technically what it is. Of course, brought to you by the guys over at Gaming Malta, which is the home of gaming excellence. Now, we're going to be getting into our best of three series, our upper bracket match, which continues from what we saw earlier. Now, SKADE managed to get themselves a pretty easy victory facing off against the Galaxy Racers, winning 16-3. And although Hellraisers had a slightly tougher time, they still won 16-10 versus the Heretics. And that is how we have got to where we are. Now, I sort of want to ask this to you, Scriv. Like, where do you see this series going? Like, if you had to pick a favorite, if you had to head over to Parimatch and put some money down on the table, get yourself the bonus in the banner below, how would you be spending that cash?
Honestly, I think it has to go on Hellraisers here. It does depend on where the maps fully end up. There's a couple of clashes in there in places. So I would imagine each team's going to get a decent pick for sure. But yeah, I just think in terms of the individual skill that they have and what we've just seen in coordination, at least towards the end, their CT sides especially are really, really strong, I think, on the Hellraisers end. From time to time, they can get ahead of themselves on that T side. We did see that initially against Heretics. It took them a little bit of time to get things under wraps. But yeah, I think Hellraisers, it's definitely not 100%, definitely not a shoo-in. I can certainly see it going to all three maps. And if Hellraisers miss the mark, don't get off to a good start, that kind of thing, they could end up dropping quite easily. But I think just pound for pound in the matchup, they should be taking this.
Well, yeah, I think if you look at also some of the more recent results that have actually been coming in, I'd say recent over the last couple of months, we saw a close series with Hellraisers just scraping through the victory. Then we had a more dominant 2-0 series that they managed to win. Dust 2 in their favor. They got banged out on Mirage in the previous matchup, though. So I think that the odds are fair. In fact, slightly favoring the Bulgarian side in this position. But I don't necessarily think that either way is wrong. I think it's a very 50-50 matchup. I think earlier in the day we saw an impressive performance from the likes of SKADE, who have been in some okay form. I said a loss to SJ and a loss to Gambit. The SJ one they might be a little bit disappointed with, but Gambit have currently made it into the top 20 in the world and recently won a DreamHack Open, even upsetting a few top teams such as Complexity and Cloud9 at DreamHack Masters. So they've definitely proven that they are a squad to fear. So I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Hellraisers on the other side, again, like they're victories, but some of them are a little bit more shaky. But it's enough talking, Scriv. We're going to be moving towards our match, getting into this one fairly shortly, and we're going to kick things off on Mirage, which, as said, the last time these two teams played, SKADE won it 16-4.
Certainly one of Hellraiser's weaker maps overall as well, so it does not bode well for the opener here. It's definitely a map I think you kind of need to have in your repertoire. 23% over 13, just to give you the raw statistics, is maybe a little under what you'd expect if you're trying to break into that top 30. Yeah, to be honest, I suppose I'm being nice, you're being honest. So
that's awful.
Yeah, and it is just going to have a vast effect on your pool. They also seem to have a bit of a permaban in the form of Overpass. Do play it every now and then, but like very, very rarely. So yeah, I think that's actually something. Looking at it, is Hellraiser's map pool is a little too shallow in some of these best of three scenarios. SKADE are a team that clearly are going to abuse that, and then map 2 and 3 both teams are confident on, so the veto's gone quite well, I would say, for the Bulgarians.
Well, yeah, I think that's the way you have to look at this, is that I feel like in best of three series that there's always going to be a weaker map for Hellraisers in there. That's why we've seen them lose to some of the better teams who can take them on the maps that they don't necessarily like so much. Like, sure, if you go Dust 2, Train, Inferno, Nuke, pretty decent, but then the other three maps are all below a 25% win rate. And to have a 4-map squad, sure, it will work maybe at tier 2, tier 3 level. You get to tier 1 and you're going to get banged at least one of the maps every single time. This start, though, pretty decent for SKADE. They've killed off the one aggressor in towards that A site. There has been a rotation from James, but the fact is he's alone, and I kind of wish he hadn't faced.
A little frustrating, especially for Hellraisers. The A-bomb site is completely overrun here. 1-for-1 trade over at CT, Kalinka's finding a couple heads. Need to give him the respect. There's only Dennis Law here. Thankfully, he does find that frag. Really could have turned things around. JR immediately gooshed out and finished off by Dennis Law as well. So not really a chance for Hellraisers. Like you say, they lose that initial fight. The second one maybe didn't need to happen. I think at that point you got to go, okay, let's concede, drop back, go for the 4v5 retake and just try and make the best of a bad situation, but not the case. So SKADE coming away with a quick pistol, a dominant pistol, feeling confident in the early round.
And on the other side, interestingly, we're actually going to see them save. And it's not the most common thing to do in these sort of rounds, especially if you're a team with a competent AWPer. In fact, we saw earlier on Dust 2, they actually ran a double AWPer at one point in the match. That's not going to be coming up in the early rounds. Now, it does give them a better chance to break back versus some of these purchases, and also reduce any extra money that can be made, but it definitely doesn't seem to be the most common thing on the CT side anymore. Most of the time, you are going to get an investment in round number 2, a force buy to try and make it work with the pistols, and then in the next round, you have your eco. So clearly, Hellraiser's feeling confident with the bare bones rifles, maybe going to get an SMG or 2. This round, though, I was going to say should be a slaughter, but they've actually walked straight into a stack. And although this isn't a force buy, they've done more damage than we ever should be seeing in these sort of rounds.
This is problematic. The bomb as well in an awkward spot. Definitely workable here. Oh, thank goodness. Spellan checking all his angles. So, problem, his time is somewhat numbered. The fact that it comes down to a 1v1 is already an achievement here for Hellraisers, but the round, yeah, not going to be won. The MAC-10 wins it out. No catches, no sneaky plays. The AK denied away, though. So it's a very, very costly round for SKADE. I think Hellraisers, to be honest, can be happy with that, and they come in with the full rifle buy up against a shaky one on the other side of things. Of course, Parimatch, the odds there for this map in favor of SKADE, of course, does make sense. That bonus on your first deposit available with the banner down below. Do be sure to check it out.
Yeah, I think with the 16-4 victory, as I mentioned previously, I think that has put people off maybe betting on Hellraisers on this map, at least, in the overall series. They were much closer. Now, this round is where we saw the money being saved for, and although the T's have taken a bit of a hit in terms of their finances because of the last round, they're actually doing very well in this one. Kalinka did manage to get an AWP, but it was glass cannon, and well, that may have actually been JR, although he's died. Weirdly enough, though, James still fighting this, and the rest of the team have already gone to save. Maybe a bit disjointed in their decision-making, but whatever it is, it's cost them. They've lost an extra gun. They won't have enough money to invest into the next round, and for the T's, they've been let off the hook, because this was a round where, realistically, if they lost it, their money was absolutely screwed. So, I'm not quite sure what the decision-making was there. Duplicate also has to get running if he's going to survive the bomb radius, but I think he should be okay.
Really needed some solid crossfires from Hellraisers, I think. The initial utility is obviously lacking from them. And not very much to keep or soften the attack of the SKADE side of things. And SKADE really read into that quite well by just bursting out and catching them off guard. Like I say, it needed, I think, a solid setup, like maybe an early smoke into the apartments or whatever, but you need to be prepared for that, and they just weren't. So yeah, the rifle buy not working out at all. Little unorthodox from them, like you say. And now, well, trying to do what they can with what they have. A half buy around the saved weapons, of course. They do have the majority of their team ready and waiting. An awkward fight for Flaric. He is traded back quickly. An upgrade as well, of course, for Jim onto the AK. Ooh, it's troublesome fight all across the shop. The trades are coming in from the CTs. There comes Kalinka. He does get taken down, but the CTs get it done. Just too many bodies for SKADE to deal with. And Hellraisers, just like that, managed to pick up their first round. SKADE seemingly, you know, pedal to the metal and just not changing that up in the first 4 rounds. Eventually, they get caught off.
Yeah, a lot of the time you do have sort of slower, more methodical rounds when it comes to your anti-ecos. Want to use your utility to try and force players out into awkward battles. Instead, they try and just raw brute force their way into the site, and it's cost them. Look at their money. been absolutely wrecked over the last 2 rounds. Bear in mind, there was only one surviving when they faced off against the Pistols. They had a few in terms of the last round, and because of that, they've at least been able to get a couple of rifles. For the CT side, though, winning with Pistols again. I say again, they basically won the last one. They've now boosted their economy quite significantly, so chance for them to really build into this. Of course, if SKADE managed to somehow win this round right back, it would skyrocket them probably up to 5 or 6 rounds.
Yeah, really important one here, and of course that opening pick onto Rainwaker really helps the scenario. So, small sigh of relief from Hellraisers that it's them to find the opening pick, and SKADE just try to do what they can. Oh, Duplicate does manage to take down James on the trade, but moves a little slowly, perhaps, as does Spellan. They kind of needed to just charge in off the back of that flash. The fact that he comes away with one there is somewhat criminal, excuse me. JR all the same, though. Looking good on the AWP. Into the 4-on-2. 30 seconds left. And, I don't know, nice 1-for-1 on A, but ultimately, I just don't really think they've had enough weaponry and utility to work with. Losing the first man screwed them here, it feels like.
Yeah, this is an incredibly disjointed round. Like it seems like everybody had ideas and none of them were properly executed. I'm also quite surprised by the fact that they managed to get into the connector. They had a player baiting, and then the other player just tries to running swing. Like they didn't know he was there until he makes the footsteps. So I'm not sure if that was just miscommunication or if maybe just thought that he would have a higher chance if he just wide swinged while stepping, but just handing kills away to Hellraisers. And this is giving me flashbacks to what we saw in the Heretics game. Like, they didn't get off to the greatest of starts, but the fact is they've managed to win a round that they shouldn't have, and now it's just skyrocketed their economy. Like, you're looking at James, sure, it's before he buys, but $7,200. Everybody else around the 3,000 mark. I imagine there's probably been a gun drop somewhere, or if there hasn't, there will be. So, and on the other side of things now, SKADE can't actually afford to buy. So they're just going to have to wait. Obviously, a player has dropped from the server, so we'll be giving it a moment before we actually get back into things. But yeah, both teams I feel are a little bit shaky from what we've seen so far, Scriv.
I think we are in for somewhat of a ride on this map, to be honest. Hellraiser's uncomfortableness with it. And in places, SKADE's kind of overconfidence, one-track style of play, puggy style of play, for sure, is the way of putting it. So it could be a very, very quick map, or it could be an incredibly close and messy back and forth. Really does depend, of course. Some slowdown here. Perhaps SKADE cool off somewhat. And I would hope so. Their cash as a team, not great. Denisaur could perhaps half buy into this, but like, what's the point, really? Maybe get a pistol just to apply some pressure, but it should be a third for Hellraisers, and like I say, it should be an eco for SKADE. I think that's what I'd want to see, rather than them going all in. But at the same time, there's that philosophy of the team. They might say like, oh, well, you know, we're coming close. The money for Hellraisers is also not ideal. Let's keep the pressure on them with the buys. What? Does it actually do that? That I didn't read. Like, does the shadow stay of the player that's left? That is freaky. That's so weird.
Well, the more you know. Does anybody have any of the new skins? That's what I want to know. I've seen a few of them floating around, like the sort of multicolor M4. That looks like a bit of a scuffed AWP on JR, I'll be honest. Pretty tasty. Guns coming up, holding an incendiary. So, like, what have you done to that?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what skin that's... Actually, I do know what skin... I don't remember what it's called, but that looks awful. It looks like someone tied it behind a truck and then dragged it for about 100 miles. And that's what you get on the end. I've actually got one of his teammates, Cassandra. I have a golden sticker on my blood in the water with his name on it because he drew his sticker as a shark. So now I've got the blood in the water with the golden shark on it, which I I think it's a pretty badass combo. Also, I decided back when Electronic played for Flipside, you can see I'm a true fan. I think I spent 20 euros and I bought 4 golden Electronic stickers, put them on my AK-47, nice little red line, and they're worth quite a lot now.
Well, there you go.
So if there's a player you really like who you think is going to be the best in the world one day, or one of the, well, he was like, I think 4th and 6th in the world 2 different years, buy their stickers when they're young and wait for them to get good. And if you're right, sell those stickers for big boy cash. That's not what I did. I put them on a gun and that
devalues them wildly.
Yeah, exactly. I also, one of the most terrifying things you can do is you can look back through your Steam trading. And I realized that I think I sold one of the, like, I think it was like an old school Dignitas sticker for like £1. And then you look at how much it's worth now, and it's like, oh, it's just worth 400 euros. It's like, yep, not so yet, so.
Yeah, stickers are always a wild one to predict for sure, because you never really know.
The worst one
I suppose
is
like team.
I once got a
stickers,
golden Kenny S sticker and sold it to buy more stickers, and
yeah,
don't do that.
It's rough, mate. It is rough because it's just kind of what you do, isn't it? With skins, like, because the weapon skins, especially when they've just come out, that's probably the smart thing to do. Anyway, we're into a proper round now. The last one was just an eco, nice and easy. This one, 1-for-1 trade at middle. A lot of fire going down towards middle. Parimatch with the thinnest of angles to spot a player there at ramp. Throws the smoke down, backs off, and the action seems to have dried up ever so slightly, with things slowing back down. But a very, very important round early on in this game really could dictate the pacing and who has control of this first half. Neither team really has solid cash, especially more so on the SKADE side of things. So a clean victory here for Hellraisers would be amazing. Getting back in on the SKADE side would be amazing. Parimatch with a very, very, very unexpected angle, but he doesn't get the spray down. Has to find that. Absolutely has to find that. And the fact that he was so aggressively pushed up on A and they thought he'd, you know, get the kill easily means there's no one else around. So a 4-on-3 retake required.
Yeah, that was probably the whiff of the century, and unfortunately it's put Hellraisers in a pretty bad spot. A 3 versus 4 after plant. Couple of low players, though, or one more so than other. Rainwaker in a bit of trouble. And actually, he's in a position that's commonly naded. Luckily, there isn't an HE available for them to force him out of position. Kalinka actually gets tagged on the way through, but they have killed off Rainwaker. The bomb planted in such an open position for the ramp, though, is going to be very difficult to try and clear out, but they've killed off Duplicate. Another for JR as well, looking much better than what we saw earlier, but now they need to get someone on the defusal, and they've run out of time. They may have retrieved the kit, but that will be it. And unfortunately for Hellraisers, wasn't enough.
Of course, our updated odds getting slightly better. I believe it was 3 and a bit from Parimatch when we saw them at the start of the game. Of course, the banner down below takes you directly to their site. You get a bonus on your first deposit as well. Appreciate their support and partnership, as always.
Kalinka getting caught out by a little bit of spam. He still manages to kill off Spallan as well, though. So a decent start to the round from him. He's taken mid control, but at a fairly vast cost. And it seems like this map's just going to go back and forth all the way. There's been no consistent victories. And considering the last time they played, SKADE were almost totally dominant, but yet to really seen that same run of form from them. Maybe it was more so the CT side than anything else, but, well, for now, a little bit underwhelming. CT side in an aggressive position once again. Parimatch playing the shoulder peak, but he showed a little bit more than his shoulder. An easy kill for Dennis Law, and I feel like that's a couple of rounds in a row now that Parimatch has made a pretty impactful mistake when they're already in an advantageous position. Speaking of the new skins, there's one of them. Kalinka holding the brand new M4. I don't know what it's called. Not that much of a nerd. Yes, I am. Not true. But JR and Jame, they're hitting all of their shots. A 3v2 situation. JR doesn't manage to connect. And look at these are whiffs that just shouldn't be happening. Opportunities being given to SKADE, but they're not able to take advantage. And I mentioned JR in the last match they played being very quiet. So far in this map, he's been fantastic.
I think it definitely does come down to starting on that CT side. Like I say, he's much more comfortable on the AWP on the CT end of things. Of course, another one of our partners, Hellcase, with a couple codes for you on the first deposit on the bonus refill as well. Yes, get some new skins. I'm sure they've got some stuff going down. They're always running loads of different promos and whatnot on Hellcase. And I think they have an esports section. What's happened here? This is a mess. Rainwaker does manage to find one with the Glock, which honestly is criminal. But yeah, JR just does not know where to shoot in this round. All good, relatively clean. I think any damage is good damage there from SKADE. They'll be happy with the one frag, but all the same. A quick throwaway, and Hellraisers now find themselves in the lead.
Yeah, they've taken the lead, but it's not been particularly convincing. Like, I think we've had to see JR actually bail them out of positions now in multiple rounds, even in positions where they should have it almost done easily. But I'm liking the confidence we're seeing from the Ukrainian. Fantastic start. Maybe he'll be one to improve their win percentage on this map slightly. And game as well. Kicking things off, Dennis Law. This should be a very easy kill. He takes his time to make sure JL will fall, and I'm pretty sure that JL will be a little bit disappointed that his teammate just ran away through the connector and left him to die, but I suppose it gives them a chance. Actually, the fallback is starting to bite them as a second kill comes up for the Bulgarians as they bring this back into a 3 versus 3. The problem is they're split, and the bomb is still all the way back in the back parts of the apartment. So realistically, Rainmaker's got to go walking all the way through. Doesn't want to make any sound in case they push top mid. It'll begin this rotation, but it seems like even with his silence, the CT side have been able to read the situation anyway, and I've already got 2 players rotating in towards this site.
Yeah, they're very, very ready for this. Flash will start to give the game away from the T side. Weary, where do we go for the plant? Connector's open. But they don't know that. Whoa. Very, very tense. Hellraiser's not going to swing out and try and deny it. Just waiting, I think, for the movement of Kalinka before they fully go for this. Very, very, very slow on the uptake. From both sides, really. All stacked on top of each other at CT, though. Double flash coming over the top to charge forwards. Player at dark, player at sandwich will be dealt with quickly, and just like that, the retake is over. Very well done from Hellraisers. Their patience pays off massively as they move up to 6 and keep SKADE at arm's length.
Yeah, disappointing for SKADE. There's been a few rounds now where it's been like even scenarios or even in their favor, and they've let them slip away. They will still have a purchase into this one, so not too bad. And for Hellraisers, their money's not crazy, so it's not like they'll have comfortable buys going into the next few rounds if they lose one. So better than last time, but yet to really see too much from the CT side. Flarich, though, he will get one, but quickly taken down. Trade coming in, and JR still looking to hold onto the cross, but it's Jame actually doing the majority of the work, leaving just one man standing. Spallan to try and face off versus 4. Can't say I'm much of a believer, not been having the best game so far. His sneak out on towards this A site has actually gone much further than I would have thought it would. There's 4 players around this angle. The fact that he's managed to get into the middle of the site is actually quite surprising, and he's going to get a free kill. I don't know how that's happened, and a second as well. This is more damage than they ever would have been expecting. He's got plenty of time to play with as well, though the retrieval of the bomb is going to be impossible because Problem is in the right place at the right time, but that shouldn't have even got scary. Like, considering where that bomb was, they had players still holding in middle, one facing the wrong way, and no one watching ramp. Like, it's a really peculiar setup.
Yeah, definitely a hard team to keep up with, I think, on the SKADE end of things as well. Hellraiser's putting a foot slightly wrong. But I think SKADE are a very good team at exploiting that fact, you know, incredibly instinctive in the way that they play. Seems we do have a pause, of course. Hopefully not in it too long. I could be blind, but it doesn't seem to say anywhere whether it's tactical or technical in nature. So maybe if I check the right channels in the Discord.
Toilet pause.
Ah, okay. A classic. Okay. Well, full updates coming in from our guy Big Vu. Was a tactical pause, but of course they put it down as a technical in the old chat when they triggered it. So, bit of a whoopsie-daisy from the players. Either way, immediately back into the action. Why not rush mid? Let's give it a bash. The half-buy coming in from the T side. Bit of damage done, but ultimately mowed down. Straight into the meat grinder. Oxygen, the only one left to try and find 4. And he can't even get one. So there you are. Hellraisers will double the score of their opponents with that 8th round.
Yeah, I'm almost starting to wonder if the last time they played that SKADE just got off to a flying start and they were difficult to stop, because I've not really seen anything that's been particularly impressive. Like, the only sort of rounds that I feel like they've managed to win have been off critical errors from Hellraisers, like players whiffing some of the easiest shots you'll ever see, like having clean kills and just not taking them, and even just mispositioning themselves sometimes. Whereas for Hellraisers, it seems like a lot of their players are just performing. Kalinka off to a flying start, 13-6. JR 12-7. James as well, 12-9. Even Problem like 8-5, and Flyer at 7-6. Like, every single player is positive at the moment. On the other side, a lot more quiet performances. Some of the players that were performing so well earlier on, and being that this is their map choice, SKADE really need to be taking this one if they're going to have a chance in this series. Look at the amount of damage that's already been done to them. We're about 40 seconds into the round. One of their players is on 9 HP, 41 HP as well. Oh, sorry, wait, that's 2 HP. Very confusing looking at the number of the player on the right-hand side and the HP on the left-hand side. That catches me off so often. But yeah, 41 HP and 2 HP. So, and on the other side, they've not taken a single point of damage.
Kalinka.
Alright.
Finds a quick one. Rainwaker, though, even faster. That is not a fight you generally expect him to come out on top of, but he does. So we'll see whether it has an effect. A great little angle from Flarich. Spots both ends of the totem pole. Is traded out, but then his trader is traded by his teammate. All good. 1v3 for Spellant, and he's on the other side of the map, of course. Somewhat savvy to this fact. Jay nearly gets caught off. I think he was just in that transition between gun to knife to moving away a split second earlier than Spellant might have found him. No time to get anything done, though, so the save will come in, holding this AK into the next round. Not really ideal, but with the max loss bonus and whatnot, they might try and put together some kind of a buy anyway. Still, though, Hellraiser's kind of surprising us here quite a lot. And, yeah, you can see now things are starting to look up for them in a logistical sense as well. Parimatch really believing in them quite a lot.
Something to mention as well that's interesting is the last time these two teams played the map, it was actually 12 rounds on the T side for SKADE. So this has gone so much worse than it did last time. 6 is the max they can get. They've saved a little bit of extra cash here as they do invest some money. Kalinka down to just 1 HP. But he will survive. Managing to take down Oxygen, who's been having a pretty rough start. All the trees have been cut down, and he's not been producing quite as much.
Well, okay, this round very quickly down to just Stanislaw. He could get the drop here. He's in behind, to be fair. I don't think they quite realise this. just starting to check all their angles and whatnot and be safe. But there you go. Yeah, JR's low HP. Not ready for the second. Problem does well to trade it. But to be honest, finding the 3 frags, pretty big damage. Not that it really matters, because we're going into the final round of the half and they can still buy. If this goes to 11-4, I will be really surprised. I thought it could be a tough battle. Maybe SKADE have got a lot to show on the CT side of things, but I don't know, bro. It's a long, arduous uphill battle if they can't at least hit 5.
Yeah, for sure. I'm starting to worry for SKADE quite badly at this point, because I don't know if they're going to be able to do much versus Hellraiser's Dust 2. But who knows if they can get off to a better start. Either way, a little bit of aggression coming out from the CT side. Not having the double AWP this time, although they could have afforded one. JR still with $9,950 that will be going to waste. The taxation of Counter-Strike, stealing away his hard-earned cash. Nade, not actually doing quite as much damage as it could have done. The steps, obviously, impenetrable to high explosive grenades. But the T's, they've almost just fallen into a standstill. They've gained their middle control. They've started rotating a couple of players through B. Now Denny, trying to find something into mid. Oxygen actually going to be the one to find the opener. Taking down Kalinka, leaving Problem to stand. The flashbang is solid, though. So well played by Spallan. Even finds another kill in the meantime. And for the remaining 2 CT players, it seems like there's little to no hope.
Would take a lot to pull it out of the bag. They have to give it a go, to be honest. Of course, with this scenario, I'm sure they'd love to save, but not allowed. But yeah, with JM being so low as well, just not really a chance, is there? Ooh, he says. Contact play doesn't work out for Dennis Law. Orp picked up here. They're trying their best to move in. They do a decent attempt at it, in all fairness, but just too many men. And a 10-5 half. I think it's certainly workable for SKADE. As you can see, a lot of that predicated off the back of the pistols, so they will have to perhaps find that again, and also pick it up when it comes to the rifle rounds on their CT side. But it's room to work with. I think 5, even these days, is still a little lackluster, especially because it's their pick and they're meant to be so effective on it, not only in general, but in this matchup. Clearly, Hellraisers have done work on it, though. Really solid CTN coming in for them. We'll see how it translates into the T side. A fast B play to come through, Tom.
Yeah, just rushing straight through. They have managed to completely negate the one player, but will eventually kill him off. The trade comes in from Duplicate, but it might be too little too late. The T's are just running over them. A quick pistol round. Clearly some work being put in, but at the same time, I feel like the Bulgarians have fallen quite flat in this matchup, leaving just Rainwaker remaining, and Hellraisers are utterly dominant in their pistol round, leading their way forward towards a match victory. And while for SKADE at this point, I feel like they need to force and try and give it a go in this round.
No is your answer. I'm sorry to inform you, they're not going to do that. So, which is strange. I don't know if they're just trying to pull a leaf out of the book of their opponents or what, but it's not generally seen, to be honest, as we mentioned in the first half when Hellraisers did it. Nice little 1-for-1 in middle, I guess, against the Max 10, but of course they've lost control of the A-bomb site. Like, retaking with this weaponry, it's just not going to happen. Maybe get some exits if they can set up for it, but it should easily be a 12th for Hellraisers. Yeah. We'll see what they've got planned, but they need something somewhat magical to come out in the next round, to be honest with you. If they lose the next, I think that's the map. So, a lot of pressure on it, and it will be a weak buy. I'm pretty sure lacking an AWP, so there's a chance... Right, Duplicate could get one, but it would be glass cannon. I don't think they want to be that desperate.
Why are they
so yeah,
fighting this?
I don't know. It's a bit strange. Are they going to go down to the bomb? No, okay. You managed to just make it away.
I guess they get some extra kill bonus, $300 a piece, but I don't know. It wasn't worth the risk of the rifles in my eyes. Nonetheless, this basically comes down to it. If they lose this round, as you said, chances are there's not going to be a comeback. There's not going to be a magical turnaround because they just don't really have much available to them in terms of finances, but also just the amount of rounds that are actually left. T's looking to keep it basic, building in towards an A-site push, but they've lost their mid defender. Kalinka was looking to try and hold off rotations. Now they need to try and get some pretty impressive entries into this site, and it is not going well at all. The CT side coming out on top, and although there's a trade or two back, it comes down to JR. Now, as said, he's been pretty good so far. He's got a 1v2. He expecting the player from behind. It looks like he is. He's going to go hunting for Denny. The angle will be a tough one to win the duel, however, and he isn't going to be able to take it this time.
Very, very fast. Very, very fast from Hellraisers. I don't know if that's quite the move. I guess it's almost perfect. Very similar to what SKADE did actually in their first rifle round against the weak CT buy. And it worked for them. Oh, the odds looking... Oh, swapping about before our very eyes.
Really? That for the map, that was map stats. Like, it's 12-6. I'm surprised that there's still people that have that much faith in SKADE. Like, I would put it much higher, but I guess maybe that's just me. I guess it's not my money at risk. So. But yeah, those odds for Hellraisers really didn't look too bad considering they are currently 6 rounds in the lead and only need 4 more rounds on their T side. And as mentioned, like SKADE got the majority of the rounds the last time they played on the T side. So sure, they managed to break back, but T's are coming in with the purchase. It's not a particularly good one, but such a fast take into the site has caught the CTs off guard. Now, sure, the utility will do a little bit of extra damage. They're going to smoke off the connector and just try and get the bomb down on default. Nice kill will come in, and Kalinka's actually going to try and get aggressive, forcing Spallan into a corner. Got to be careful. He is out in the open, but with the smokes down, it's tough for them to find any sort of angle. Such a risky play from Oxygen, and he'll be choked out of the round. Denny Slaw now the only one remaining, and yeah, going to be a 1 versus 4 situation. Don't see any way that he wins this, so realistically, 13-6.
Maybe not a lot of chance that he gets out either. They are on the hunt. Pretty paramount that he does to just bring something into the next round. But yeah, arguably even worse of a situation for them than losing the previous, because now they have less time and less loss bonus. So that sucks. And now they're just going to have to, yeah, rest on their heels, maybe a couple upgraded pistols, let it go to 14, and then 9 in a row required. No, 10 in a row required, sorry, to take it in regulation. 9 in a row required, of course, to take it to overtime. Tough ask for any caliber of team. So it really is not looking good. Again, to reiterate, if you are just joining us and maybe a little ill-informed, it is the pick of SKADE here. And one that we expected them to pick up. I did see this one going to 3 maps because of the veto. And now I'm not so sure. I mean, we've just seen Hellraisers have a really good time on Dust 2. It's definitely a map where that upset potential, that surprise potential can come in, especially if they come into it a bit too overconfident. We did see that against Heretics, and the fact that there'll be a map up as well could make a difference. And like you said, perhaps the last time they played this map, it's all down to SKADE and momentum, which is what Dust 2 is really all about. So it's certainly not over just yet in the series. It does feel like this map is getting there, though. Hard eco here. Clean headshots. Yes, they are against unarmored opponents, but still, they look really good. Nice pre-fire. There you go. Rainwaker manages to find one for the boys, but that should be all he gets to play with. Bits and bits of damage coming in. They do need to be careful, but realizing the problem is that the gap kind of needs to be closed so that it's harder for him to land headshots.
It seems like they're super hungry for frags. Like, you can see them already, like, going on the hunt for extra players, trying to do some damage. But the fact is, it is now going to be 14-6. The last chance saloon for SKADE as they do invest into a double AWP setup. Spallan will be manning the secondary. Does, however, leave him without Kevlar. In fact, both AWPs are without Kevlar, so it's still not the most ideal buy in the world. And with how things have been going so far, with the players that have been performing so far, in fact, every single player, we're looking at 16, 21, 18, 12, and 20 for the side of Hellraisers. On the other side, I think the highest is only 13, so they've been outperformed, outclassed, which was not what I was expecting going into this matchup, especially with the earlier performances. Hellraisers being a little bit more shaky, it seems, whereas SKADE were absolutely dominant. Spallan, though, playing aggressive. Up in the palace, this AWP needs to land its first shot, and it seems like Problem is almost just waiting, hoping that his opponent will get impatient and try and make some sort of play. The fact is, though, it seems like Spallan is just going to wait, but I almost feel like eventually he's going to take this peak and die.
Does certainly feel that way. Yep, here it comes. Oh, okay. Misses the shot, though. That's unlucky. Goes a bit too early. Problem takes him down regardless of the fact. Knew he was there 100%. And we'll get the drop. That could be it. That could be the linchpin play that just makes the game. To be honest, wow. Kalinka also looking crispy across the board. As you've touched on, right? They're just so hot, so warm, so ready for this series. Maybe just coming off their map previously could make that difference. Could be the reason why. Duplicate, though, with the double. Giving a bit more of a chance for SKADE to come in. There's potential of a flank. I think they might just need it. Maybe. No, it's not going to happen. Problem finds the double spray. Easy as you like. And HR move up to 15. No skin off their back in this second half, really.
Yeah, for sure. And they sort of said it before, that a lot of the time SKADE were doing the damage when it came to the T side. They just didn't get going in this match. And while the purchase that they have now, there's no AWPs, there's not even a primary rifle. They've got themselves FAMAS instead, and an SMG alongside a Deeg. Not an ideal flash to start things off, but for the T side, as long as they don't make any major slip-ups, this is done. And already Kalinka, who's been fantastic so far this match, is going to find them another opening pick. They look to pressure this B side, though, and that's actually where the stack is waiting. A risk has been taken by the Bulgarian side of SKADE, and maybe this will work out for them. Flashes, smokes going over, but they've got to be careful from short. Nice start for Rainwaker. A trade coming back, however, with him now being the only one remaining. Duplicate tries to pull back this map, but it is done. Hellraisers, they're going to take this 16-6. There's absolutely no chance. Of FAMAS, no utility, doesn't even have head armor, not that it really matters, and absolutely nothing behind his name. 7 HP, trying to hold on to this one, and it will be Hellraisers to take it. 16-6 of dominating performance. As I said, the last time these two teams played on this map, it was a 16-4 in favor of SKADE, hence why they picked it. And sure, they get themselves a fracture case, maybe to try and wipe away their tears and spend some extra money on Counter-Strike. But the fact is, the Bulgarians never made it into that match.
No, the first half started well, right, with the pistol and everything going their way, and some nice reads, some nice aggression, but very, very quickly Hellraisers were able to just say, okay, maybe don't take these early fights, maybe just give them a bit of room to work with, but they become very transparent very quickly, and once they get that read, there's no adaptation from SKADE throughout the game to bounce back from.
Yep, a bit of a rough one. There is still another map to come, and one that I'm sure they'll still be fairly happy to play. I believe Dust 2 is going to be our second map, so join us after the break to see if SKADE can turn this around.
Headshot, nice. Fist bumps go to the teammates.
I wanna hear your go, go, go. I wanna see you falling fast. Win the round. Win the game.
Parimatch, they play, you win.
Hello and welcome back to the European Development Championship, which is brought to you by Gaming Malta, a home of gaming excellence. We're going to be getting into map number 2 of what has been our Group B upper bracket match. One of these teams, in the form of either Hellraisers or SKADE, will be heading through to the playoff stage. And the other will have to play a decider match, likely versus Heretics if Galaxy Racers continue to play. But obviously, we have to find out what happens tomorrow in that loser match. So, Scrib, we've had our first map, a map one that normally, or at least previously when we saw SKADE play it, they absolutely dominated versus Hellraisers. Now we've come back a couple of months later and they've been dominated themselves.
Yeah, it's definitely a wild one. Because there's not only that in terms of the matchup as we hammered home as well, it's just not a good map for Hellraisers. So the fact that they've come away with that is surprising at the very least. Problem playing really, really well in that as well. 23-8 in terms of, you know, the score, 97 ADR. So looking really strong. There's a lot of worrying factors for SKADE now moving into Dust 2. They're a pretty confident team on it. Not terrible in their own right, but Hellraisers, precedent of today, look really good, especially in that second half against Heretics. And of course, like I've just said, we've got some pretty strong individuals feeling confident moving forward. So it's really not stacking up well for SKADE. Also, that added pressure of the fact that, you know, you lose this and the series is over. So there's a lot for the Bulgarians to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, Dust 2's a map that they're very much accustomed to, one that they play themselves. So it's not like it's the end of the world, I guess you could say, but at the same time, this is by far the best map of Hellraisers, one that they've played more than any other and have the highest win percentage on, so you can't really take anything away from the CIS squad. And the fact is, at this point, I'm almost starting to count out SKADE. Now, I definitely don't think that they're out of this series by any stretch of the imagination. It's just more the fact that that map's normally a pretty good one for them and a weak map for Hellraisers, and they got battered. Like, it wasn't particularly close, even with some pretty poor mistakes coming through from the side of Hellraisers in the early stages as well. Makes me sort of question, like, okay, if they're going to slip up, if they're going to have some really big whiffs at the beginning of the game, and then they're still going to destroy you and end it 16-6, well, then you just haven't shown up at all. And that seemed to be the case. Like, some of their players, even on an individual level, just didn't look particularly good. You had Oxygen finishing -14, 6-20 overall. Like, Denislaw, somebody who's normally pretty good, 12-19. Spallan, 9-20. Like, there wasn't really a player to look at. I guess Duplicate being 16-19, who was their best player in the entire server. On the other side, pretty much every single player was positive. The lowest rating was a 1.19. So the Hellraisers look like they've shown up to play. They maybe had a slightly quieter match versus Heretics, but after that, they've been the better squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we talked about, you know, pound for pound, the individual prowess and whatnot really comes to a head as you're talking about. And then we move into Dust 2, which again, like, is just a great map for individuals, a great map for that momentum. And if you can hardly put up an attack on Mirage, then I do really worry for SKADE coming into Dust 2. I believe they'll be starting on the CT side of things, so we'll see. Might get a different showing from them in that sense.
Who cares?
Yeah, I wouldn't really put it down to that, to be honest. I'm just trying to give them something to work with, but they really need a bit of a miracle, someone to step up in a big way. Is
it better to start CT side? Because I'll be honest, if I'm choosing sides of Dust 2, this is more just personal preference, which I think this map is. I want to start T side. I want to set the pace. I want to be able to go for these aggressive plays, maybe try and catch the CT side while their aim's a little bit off in the early stages of the map. Like, I feel like the T side's the place to be, but evidently, in the pistol round, maybe not so much, because it's going very, very well for SKADE so far.
Yeah, rocking it. As we've seen an aggressive start from Hellraiser just absolutely fall flat. Not a single frag. So there you go. That's the kickstart to the system SKADE needed. No bomb plan for Hellraisers, of course. So nice and clean. Nice and clean. They can be very, very happy with that indeed, coming away with it. See what the choice is from Hellraisers. We saw some interesting second round after losing the pistol decisions in terms of saving the weaponry. Not quite as foreign on the T side, but certainly on that CT side, it raised a few question marks, and I want to say didn't find success for either side. So, actually, no. I think I'm wrong. I think SKADE did hold off. It was the one round that they won on their CT side with the slightly weaker gun rounds. So, maybe it does make sense, but in this particular one, they're just chilling.
Yeah, over on the T side, though, you kind of don't expect there to be much investment into this round unless you get a bomb plant. It's sort of all or nothing. You get a bomb plant, you take a big risk, you invest. You don't, and you get this, basically. Now, JR's invested a little bit extra because chances are without a bomb plant, he won't have enough money to get anything he wants anyway. I do like this setup, though, because I sort of mentioned it in the last map of Hellraisers. The only place you're going to go when you have Glocks in this sort of round is short. Even if you have the Tech 9s, this is the only place that makes sense. It's the only chance for you to get a bomb plant. So they've stacked up. They put 3 players ready and waiting. They're looking to try and deny that extra cash, and that's exactly what they'll do. Sure, they lose 1 player, but that's not really anything to write home about, and SKADE do a good job of getting a decent start on this second half.
You can see those odds, of course, from Parimatch. As there is that bonus on your first deposit. Beautiful. Comes up in perfect timing. The banner down below. I mean, it's all there for you. It's all there for me as well. Makes it nice and easy to read off. But their continued support, always appreciated. Great flash comes in to open up. As that first frag for Hellraiser secured, Dennis Law goes down without finding anything. Also, an AWP now available. Lovely stuff. This is sniped up, hoovered up by Problem, in fact. And he's hoping to keep his hands on it. So a 5-on-4 early on, minute and 20. Nothing really for SKADE to return back from. Not the start they were looking for, particularly when they are arguably, almost inarguably on the weaker buy.
Nade. Thought it might do a little bit more damage than that, but in reality, not quite as much as what would have been hoped. Hellraiser's looking pretty good in this round, but they've got to make sure that they clear the man off the corner. I think JR's just spotted him, so waiting for the flash. Dodged and actually doesn't land the shot. He was more than prepared for that push to come in. It doesn't matter, though. Kalinka has just managed to get a double entry, and this might change where they're going. He's killed 2 players on the B side, all on his own. Duplicate trying to rotate in. Does a lot of damage, but doesn't get a single kill. And with the B side firmly under their control, and the last player now just trying to hold on to what is an SMG, Hellraisers will win this round almost cleanly. And that's a good sign. Like, Kalinka got some really impactful entries in the last map in particular. And if he continues to do that, he's a very experienced guy. He's just going to plateau, continue to get better and better. So a scary prospect for them going forward. And the CT side's money is so bad, they're actually not even going to force buy into this.
Not a great spot to be in at all, to be honest. Immediately on that back foot, you know, they found a bit of an advantage off the back of the pistol. Same as Mirage. But once the rifles come into play, Hellraiser's looking more like themselves, I suppose. We do see a stack here towards long that could get very messy indeed. First man goes in, as does the second for Hellraisers. Not missing their shots. Great little flash comes over the top. Got to capitalize on that quickly. They do for one, but that is all. As I like to say, any damage is good damage in a round like that, but all the same, Hellraiser's coming away pretty cleanly. And as we've come to know, as we come to expect of that T-side economy, sorry, the expansion of it happening quickly. So SKADE need to get that foot in the door. Otherwise, Hellraisers will start to, once again, dictate the pace, take control of this first half.
2-2. Gonna go running through the Molotov. That's not quite gone to plan. Rainwaker will get the kill, but actually, they gambled on the other side of the map. That Molotov needed to stop them completely, and instead, the B site is firmly under the control of the Ts. Now, they have taken some damage in response, but looking at the current situation of the CT side, trying to retake one of the toughest sites to retake in the entire game, like it might be a bit of a rough position to come back from. Nades being thrown in, trying to clear the back corner, but it's JR to actually land the shot. Parimatch as well. Gonna try and end things here, and Oxygen does at least take one as a parting gift, but the fact is, Hellraisers have managed to do it, Scriven. And let's be honest, that came off the back of one kill. That's all it was. They get a single frag, and that's it over.
Okay, there you go. Clean up at the end as well. To deny as many weapons as possible away from being saved. Just the AWP makes it into this round then. Yeah, Hellraiser's looking good, and it's very, very worrisome for SKADE. They're not putting up much of a contest in these early rifle rounds. It's rough on that CT side, of course. You know, they're feeling like their buys are not quite flushed out enough. But all the same, that's the nature of the beast. Great angle here for Duplicate. Oh, the timing's a little awkward. He nearly gets away with it. He does, at the very least, make it out with his life. Meanwhile, of course, Dennis Law is left low. Looking to go for a reposition. Maybe find a frag towards middle. Not going to happen for him, though. Flashed out. And really goon squadding around here on the CT side to try and catch someone off guard. But Hellraisers, as we saw earlier against Heretics, actually playing these anti-eco situations quite well. Really just sending the feelers out there, waiting for the kills to come to them. JR finds the first. That's the AWP dropped. It will indeed make its way into the hands of another player, and I'm sure it'll do that a number of times in this round, but the patience pays off, and now that they have an advantage, they can continue to press it, work their way in towards A, and as the numbers dwindle for the CT side, yeah, you see Spellan turn tail and go, okay, I'm going to take this AWP into the next round. Good luck on the exits.
Yeah, unfortunate truth, but the fact is it was always going to be tough to hold with these sort of pistols, and Duplicate, if he can get a kill here, that would be something. He's definitely heard the footsteps of players moving around, but I feel like eventually he's going to get spotted. JR, a little bit tagged, and Rainwaker, that's a gun. If he can retrieve that, that'd be a little bonus for him. The problem is there's a player at top of mid trying to deny him from getting there. Or at least making things a little bit more costly, and in fact, Spellan even drops the AWP for a second time. It's looking to be retrieved, but problem, well, he has to try and find a way out of there. Making the jump across, that'll be enough to at least retrieve the AWP. And Parimatch, he's still just trying to make sure that nobody gets an extra weapon, but he might walk to his death instead. Well, he does end up killing one more. Not a bad round from SKADE, but the fact is, Hellraisers still win the round, and more importantly, their economy is booming.
Of course, the updated odds coming in from Parimatch. Looking pretty damn good for Hellraisers off to their strong start. Certainly as to be expected. That bonus deposit available. That bonus on your first deposit, sorry, available down below. I'm sure it's all in the chat as well. You really can't miss it at this point. Opening pickup in the early portions of the round. Comes in from Problem. He gets aggressive, I think, off the base of a spawn. And with that, they're looking to, once again, press their attack. Very simple stuff. Easy execute out towards A short. Easiest place to take. They've got an advantage. Just keep working with it. It seems like rinse and repeat at the moment for Hellraiser. SKADE are as yet to really change the course of history. But this time they're looking to do so. A slower approach from the T side. JR, though, above the smoke, able to find one. However, two CTs stacked on top of each other, looking pretty damn good here. Into the 2-on-2. Damage done across the board. Really anybody's game right now, but the bomb in the hands of the CTs, of course.
Blinker's still with a chance. There's plenty of time for him to play with. The problem is the bomb, as you mentioned, is in a bit of an awkward position. Looking for the individual jewel. He's being handed it, but eventually Oxygen does trade. Still a little bit too close for comfort. And again, you have to bear in mind that although SKADE managed to fight back around, the economy for the T side is still pretty damn good, even after the costly finish to the last round. Now, in terms of the CTs, they're going to have to reinvest. Most of the players actually getting a FAMAS out. And again, we're going to see what looks like an early battle for long. It'll be Denny Slaw hitting that initial shot. And actually, a second picked up by Spallan. This double orb setup being put to work. And as of right now, there's been absolutely no response. Parimatch could at least find one, but even that seemed like a bit of a last-ditch effort. And, well, by the looks of things, unless JR and Problem can turn the tide, it's going to be an even scoreline once again.
Certainly looks to be the case. Rainwaker. Ooh. Bit of an awkward fight, but he does get it done. Of course, JR going down in the meanwhile. So yeah, very, very quickly coming back into things here, of course. Our other partner here, Hellcase, also, not just the one, but two codes for you to use. Again, down below, links in the chat, you know how it is. Either way, half buy from Hellraisers very, very quickly. SKADE are back into proceedings and a chance to take the lead, if they play their cards right, of course.
Duplicate. Timing here could be everything, but he's actually got support from Spallan. Ooh, nice shot to take the head off a player in pit, and he's looking to try and style on them as they walk through, but he is taking some damage as he goes. Duplicate will eventually be there in Spallan to seal the deal. A clean round from the Bulgarian side, and for the T's, even though they didn't invest too much into that round, their money is still in the bin.
Yeah, it's rough. Oh. And JR may well have jumped the gun ever so slightly. Let's see, he picks up the orb, as does Problem. Problems is effective so far. See what JR can get done with his in the latter stages of this round, of course. But nice early pick up. Meanwhile, spam through the smoke is perfect from Rainwaker to even things up as early as possible, really. Crack angle from Dennis Law. Misses the flick, but a bit of information gained, I suppose. Do need to guess correctly here. Their A-bomb site looks a little vulnerable. It is a hard one to predict, I suppose, for SKADE, and a lot of pressure on their shoulders coming into this round. A bit of money built up, but once again, not that comfortable. Really anybody's game here. A minute left. It looks like a long burst is on the cards.
Nice shot from Oxygen, though. It's going to bring things back into their favor, and with Denny to support him, I don't really see a way that James actually gets out of this situation. Though he does actually manage to peek back around, and somehow he gets both! He was surrounded by two different players, and the young Russian has managed to just clean up, make things look all too easy. It was a perfect crossfire, or at least it seemed, for SKADE, and it's completely fallen apart. What a round for Jamin. Leaves JR, who's going to close it. HR, I don't know how they managed to win that one. It all looked bleak, Scriv, but somehow they end with multiple players surviving.
Against the odds, and SKADE will be kicking themselves massively, to be honest. That is a great round for them to start solidifying their lead. And they let it slip. Like I said, though, still money to buy up. They will go for the double up setup into this one. Not sure what the plan is for Hellraisers. Just an early rush towards lower, get some Easy control. Possibly set themselves up for a mid to B. Oh, that's a great flash. Duplicate has to drop back. They don't, of course, charge forwards. There'd be the players from B to deal with also. But again, bits of control, bits of information for Hellraisers. Minute and 20 left on the clock. Now up towards short, really just posturing and trying to find clean positions, gain control of certain areas that the CTs may well have taken control of. You know, those contested areas. But at the moment, vastly uncontested. The CT's not really playing all that aggressively.
So they're going to try and challenge into mid. Rainmaker. Patiently waiting, but he's going to go down. Needs the AWP of Spallan to land a couple of shots. He's been good so far, but those couple of whiffs, sure, he lands the flying shot onto Jane, but it doesn't matter. He's lost his life in response. Duplicate does well, though, to try and cut off the one man holding the rotations, or the one man he thinks is holding rotations. The fact is, there was a second. Oxygen. Now looking to push back in. Does manage to do some damage. Denny actually drops another. Somehow they're making this retake actually look possible. All the positions of Hellraisers are nigh on perfect, but the execution hasn't been ideal. Nonetheless, it will be their round. A 6th on the board for Hellraisers. And it's not necessarily been a clean take, but in terms of a lot of the more crucial rounds, it does seem like they are coming out on top. And unfortunately, now for the Bulgarians, it's getting a little bit shaky.
Certainly buying into the chaos of this matchup, I think, Hellraisers, but doing a slightly better job of it. I think they're happy to be there, so to speak, and willing to try and play SKADE at their own game, and like you say, it is indeed working out for them. The CT economy seems to be that 6th enemy for SKADE in this game, as it often can be, but does feel accentuated in this matchup. Constant kind of presence that they get rifles out, but we're lacking some mollies. We're lacking kits. They have to scrimp the buys together and make sacrifices in places that I'm sure when it's this close and the little things can make big differences, they don't want to be. You know, imagine a long rush here. There's no Molotov. Of course, the risk not taken. They throw bodies in place of it. But all the same, there's certainly limited choices because of the limited utility.
Oh, back-to-back. A Romeo and Juliet story. So close, but yet so far. Kalinka and Spallan. Who will take first blood? It's going to be Spallan. But don't worry, later on, he might drink some poison and things could all go wrong. Well, that worked as a double joke, because actually one of the other Bulgarian players is called Poison. I'm a genius. Didn't even know it, but he's doing well in this round. Managing to find himself a second, dragging his team kicking and screaming through the round, but the fact is it still ends up in an afterplant situation. A 3v3 for SKADE to try and recover from. Now the pit is already under the control of Parimatch, and JR take a peek back in. Gonna find anything just yet. Duplicate will be spotted, however, and problem, well, he's got himself the tasty SG. At this sort of range, it's all too easy. Spallan, all he can do is scurry away, and while he may survive to fight another day, but the fact is, the half is already won for Hellraisers. 8 on the board. I sort of mentioned at the beginning, I'm surprised they didn't want to start on the T side, but I guess you get to play both halves anyway, so it's not too much of a loss.
Yeah, there's an interesting kind of conversation. One that I always thought was quite interesting that I use a fair amount is old Hugo back in the day when I did a bit of casting with him and there was a Cobble in there. A lot of teams started on the CT side of Cobble just because maybe it feels a bit easier to start there, and then, you know, if you get walked all over on your T side, you got to go into the CT side where there's more to worry about. It can be a problem.
What is this?
One of the
It would have been quicker to walk around.
Comes in so late. Of course, shout out to Parimatch, them coming up there. You can see the odds are heavily heavily in favor of Hellraisers. So perhaps if you are looking to put some money on SKADE, now would be the time to do it, just in case they do manage to turn things around.
Well, James already putting them 2 men to the good in this round, although it doesn't last for long. Oxygen has retrieved himself that AK and manages to at least trade one back, but spotting that man has given them a little bit of an inkling. He's going to rotate actually past the Molotov, and because of that, he's managed to drop Problem and the bomb. The trade will still come back in. Kalinka's backstab's normally pretty good, but not quite up to the standard of Parimatch, who has turned this into a 1v3. Now, the bomb is under the control of Oxygen, but he knows he can't just stand in the open here. He needs to get aggressive. He finds the first kill, looking to try and make this the ace, but he's been spotted by Parimatch, takes the head of him as well, and the ace comes through for Oxygen. No one left breathing on the other side, and a 6th round pulled up for the Bulgarians.
Okay. Wonderful stuff. It's really, really got to have knocked that Hellraiser's confidence coming into the last round of this first half. Bringing it as close as damn it. Getting 7 rounds on your CT side as well. Would be pretty decent. Oh, JR's there so early. Oxygen. A great round in the previous. He bows out of this one early. And that 5-on-4 for Hellraiser's looking good to convert into the 9th. Of course, double up setup still available here for the remainder of the SKADE players. Looks like a mid to B, heavy emphasis on the mid, pretty common at the moment. Rainwaker, though, great flash over the top, finds a couple frags for himself, does get traded out. So it's still being kept in that one-man advantage scenario for Hellraisers. Duplicate charging in through middle, catches JR off guard. Kalinka's in to take his teammate down, so Duplicate has to channel his best Oxygen impression and try and find this clutch.
He's going to make his way back through the window, but he's been spotted. Parimatch can switch his gaze. Maybe not expecting him to be so close by. He will be there to close out the half. 9-6 in favor of Hellraisers. A great close to this one after losing the pistol. And they've got every single player performing at the moment, whereas on the other side of things, Denny, someone who's normally a pretty heavy part of this SKADE roster, has fallen flat in this map. They're going to need him going into the T side, which is where they will reside in half number 2. And we'll see if Hellraisers can actually get the second pistol, because if not, well, we have a game on our hands.
Yes, sir. What's the game plan? 3 out towards long, and Parimatch gives it a look, says no thank you, drops back, takes the fight for another day, does get 1. What? Where are his teammates? I'm so confused. That's got to be a miscommunication that he goes in thinking the boys are with him. Spellan does get a read on the backside to at the very least even things up, but messy beginning in the first 10 seconds. It seems it's under control now and it's back to an even playing field.
Oh, a calm before the storm. The T's slowly gathering up towards long. They do have a P250 onto Denny, but he'll need to win this range battle facing off against Parimatch, who is alone, but if he can even buy time, spot them early, be enough to win them the round. 45 seconds up and coming on the clock. Do eventually look to make their push. They've got a couple of smokes still available. Oh, they've been spotted. Still nobody rotating. Now the smokes have been seen. This should be where the remaining CT players start to make their move. But Parimatch, he's done a decent job of slowing them down. Still yet to kill him off. Takes a pick for his troubles. The nade goes through, but he actually manages to fade away. And they're still going to be hunting him on the site. They don't realize just yet that he's dropped down. And this is a big problem for the T. Sure, they get a bomb plant. The boost is going to be coming over the top, but they've managed to negate those angles. And Denny needs to hit some shots there. He gets absolutely nothing. The remaining Glocks surely won't be able to do anything. Spellan, that's 1. A second as well. A 3rd for Spellan, and now he needs to finish things off. Looking for all 5 kills. Could it be a second ace for the side of SKADE? Not this time. a mammoth attempt for Spallan, but unfortunately, it's not quite enough.
Very painful indeed for SKADE. Arguably quite painful for Hellraisers that it comes that close. The information on the first two you can argue, but yeah, not quite cleanly stacked on the ramp. Really goes from 0 to about 80, not quite 100. Luckily for Hellraisers. And arguably at the end of the day, it is an issue, you know, it certainly is something to bear in mind and make sure it doesn't happen again, but doesn't affect you too much. Whether you win with 1 or 4. I suppose if they've taken no damage in the round, it does make that head armor a bit cheaper. But you're going to be facing off against the same kind of buy anyway, and you will have the same kind of buy yourself. SKADE, though, looking good into this one. The AK dropped across, I believe, from Oxygen. Maybe Denislaw as well. Kalinka, meanwhile, capitalizing on the fact that Denislaw's got no armor. Easy frag with the MP9 to kick Hellraisers off.
It seems like the CT side are ready for a push onto this A site. A player in Goose, the scout watching the cross as well. As long as JR tags a couple of players on the way, it'll be all too easy for James here. A counter smoke actually put down, which, although it definitely helps out the player in Goose, I don't think it does too much of a solace for JR. It leaves him without much vision to play around, but this is where it works out again. The young Russian doing a lot of damage. The scout, though, not quite nailing any of the players, but I guess it doesn't matter, because the SMGs are doing everything. That shot from Oxygen was disgusting, but unfortunately, it doesn't matter. And while you look at the other side, an AK's been retrieved as well. 11 rounds now on the board for Hellraisers, and bear in mind, after a first map victory as well, this is starting to slip now for SKADE.
Reality may be starting to set in. They need to go deep into the strat book. Not all that deep in general on Dust 2, but all the same, something has got to change is the point that I'm trying to make. It's not going to happen in this round. They have a few upgraded pistols. Apparently they're not needed because the Glock is effective. Nice one from Rainwaker on the Deagle. Into a 3-on-3. I mean, if they can do any more damage, keep it modest on that Hellraiser side of things, right? That makes all the difference once they start, in their minds, picking rifle rounds up. If they can take the round, if they could snatch it away, catch another player off guard, perhaps. Looks like it's not quite going to be the case. The B-bomb site is actually open. They don't know that at this point. And of course, the bomb attempting to cross quietly. He will indeed make it around, but problem holding things down. There comes the flank as well, as Spallan is in between bomb sites, doesn't really know where to go. So, yeah, the madness of earlier on has been dealt with, unless somehow this man can really pop off. I think now that he's been seen, though, it should be over in a matter of moments. Flank coming in. Flarich just buying time. Fake flash. Nah, not going to happen. They're not taking any chances, really. Just playing things patiently. Want to be careful of the spam. Really milking this one, lads. But I think I get it, because Oxygen's crazy clutch, you know, is still fresh in their minds, for sure. Bit of team damage coming in even to make things interesting. There we go. Finally, Rainwaker goes down. Doesn't want to die after time, of course, and get no loss bonus. Now we move into a very, very important round for SKADE. I think if they lose this one, the game probably goes with it. And of course, that will see them knocked down. Not out, but another best of 3 for them to play tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not really the end of the world. Like, I would expect them to be able to beat both of the remaining 2 teams available, unless Heretics really do step up. Or maybe the Galaxy Racers. It's possible they just had a bad day at the office, but... Oh. Could be a Molotov. Spotted you, JR, and he's got to be careful, because escaping that's not going to be easy. A bit of a mistake from Hellraisers early in this one. Spallan will capitalize. He's definitely been one of, if not the best player we've seen so far on the SKADE roster, although Oxygen's ace might take the biscuit thus far. the CTs are just going to fall into a 2-2 setup. It means that they have to catch someone off guard, really. Like, chances of them being able to do too much otherwise is going to be slim. Flashbang. Does manage to give him some space. Actually, James does manage to win that, but he's not going to escape. And now it's left all onto Flarich. Slowly being surrounded in the rotation is coming from his teammates, but it might be too little too late. He does start off strong, though, but Dennis Law is there with the AWP. And looking at the remaining CT's health, I think they should just save here. Get out of there. Make sure you have a buy for the next round, although even that will be a little bit dicey. Whereas if they push into this, their buy will be wrecked.
I think they're doing the all stick around, see if anyone shows themselves, but not directly pushing into the site itself. Which is fair. Somewhere down the middle, and eventually they come to that fork in the road and decide to save. So yeah, they will indeed. I suppose, yeah, you might as well, right? Even to just get everyone on the same kind of money line. Drop weapons across and whatnot, put together what you can. You've got nothing but time at the moment. But SKADE proving they can do it. Which is good for them, good for the confidence. And of course, good for the comeback moving forwards. Whether it continues is another question. 2, 3 more rifle rounds to get through before they even things up. So, really going to be a rough ride. Yeah, I'd see this as possible. To be fair. Okay, there you go. Yeah, that's what I had envisioned. Maybe JM moves down to an SMG or something like that. So the buy will be possible. Goodness gracious me, those are some of the most one-sided odds that we've seen so far across the course of the day. Of course, from Parimatch, that bonus on your first deposit is available with the banner down below. Either way, should be getting back into the action soon.
Yeah, I wonder if they actually managed to drop an AWP over for JR. I think they will. So it really is a good buy coming in for the CT side. And for the Ts, this is crunch time. They lose this round, they're back in the bin, and it's like nothing ever happened. HR probably closed this one out. They win it, and wow, it becomes possible. Start making the game look a little bit more interesting. Now, in terms of the early presence in this round, there are a lot of players towards mid. 4 of them, in fact, with Dennis Law looking to try and take a peek through. Now, Kalinka's sat nice and close, but he's going to hear a lot of footsteps. Now, this needs to be a rotation back. Because if you look at the current position of the CT side, they have no one watching short. No one at all. So they're going to either just give this up completely, try and wrap around, or Kalinka's going to just go pushing through. He's currently fighting into mid from behind. And yeah, that is a bold play, but I think it's one he realized he had to make because there was nobody defending the site at the time. Instead, he's halted the push. He's given a chance for JR to push back in. However, the remaining CT has actually gone pushing back into mid. They've got this wrong. Like, JR seems to have the right idea. Everybody else has just gone back in the wrong direction.
That is so very awkward. The moment, the hope given to them by Kalinka. I mean, it's still possible, but, like, feel like the round could have been over. And now they have to deal with the post plant. Rainmaker can't land the headshots, though. There goes the short pressure JR. Meanwhile, from long, being a nuisance. 2 from the side. The third, not quite. It's all onto Spellam. Has to clutch up. He's come close before. 3 more to find. Oh, the defuse happening. And he runs out of ammo, of course. Doesn't matter if he goes down there or not.
Again.
The round was over. And that might just be that.
That's the second time he's been in a clutch situation and run out of ammo. That's unfortunate. JR playing fantastically well, though, in that situation, managing to find 2 picks and also a bit of a whiff on the player from short. Actually gave them a way back into that because that was a situation that I feel like, again, in terms of their read, it looked like they got it completely wrong. Now, the bomb plant actually does give enough for Ts to at least pull out a purchase in this round. But again, they're going back to this sort of slower style, and they're still going for long control. And that's the curious thing, because they're almost allowing the CTs to set themselves up, and they've not checked that angle. That is a mess. You cannot let a player get away with that much. In fact, there's going to be a 3rd kill coming up for James. That is an awful round from SKADE. I feel like your matchmaking team will check that corner.
Yeah. There's no real defending that. There's no coming in from the other side, you know. Trying to find a reason. as Mr. Greer would say, what a blunder. And a massive one at that. Well, okay. It seems Hellraisers want to get this game over and done with. Kalinka with the wallbang headshot to open up. Double up setup here from Hellraisers, of course. Weak buy from SKADE, of course. Things really, really not looking good, Tom. They're trying to play for the win, not taking the eco, and it starts off terribly once again. Nice little tag from Kalinka as well. Doesn't get the frag, but I mean, he's got backup. He's got an automatic weapon beside him to capitalize on the fact. Quick boost over. Dennis Law, see you later. Another one coming in from Problem. Rainwaker does manage to find one on the Deagle. He gets flanked out eventually. It's all onto Oxygen. Seeing what this man's capable of. Been impressive so far. I know where he's at, though. The flash is coming over the top, and the hunting party is out. His days are numbered. He misses that shot, gets taken down, and now 8 in a row required for the Tees to stay alive and take us to a third map after winning overtime. Like, that's a lot to do.
Yeah, it doesn't look too likely, but, you know, we'll wait and see. We won't count them out just yet. But realistically, they're going to have to do it with just as little as what we've seen from them so far. Not much utility. They're just going to go for a straight, long fight. JR is on the angle. Molotov thrown down, so... But now at least not going to be the face. Kalinka through the edge of the box is going to put Rainwaker out of commission. Not the start they were hoping for. Spallan looking to try and capitalize, and Kalinka again. He's been on a tear throughout this map. A superb first one as well. They've not been able to do anything versus the veteran. Well, it seems like a team performance overall. Lowest frags on their side, 15. Highest is 21 on Flarich, who has just died. JR, though, looking much better from the match that we saw earlier, connecting some pretty integral shots when it comes to this CT defense. And he's looking to try and end it, but a slight whiff will leave Spallan at least with a chance. A 1v4, make that 3, but that will be it. 16 and 7, a dominant performance across both maps, and a strong showing from the Hellraisers sees them make it through to the playoffs of the European Development Championships. Of course, brought to you by the guys over at Gaming Malta. But yeah, a very impressive showing from them. And I thought this would be a much closer series, especially after what we saw earlier from the side of SKADE Scriv. But the fact is, yeah, they never really matched up.
It's definitely a surprising one on Mirage for me. I think that was the map where they would make things interesting for sure. But off to a slow start there, and it just kind of continues. I think coming into Dust 2 had their heads left in that first map. The economy game as well, it's unlucky, it's frustrating, but constantly away from them on both halves. So, yeah, they were constantly up against it and just not able to step up to that kind of pressure, to that harder game, it felt like, for them. Making it hard themselves a little bit, but yeah. Also, in the same vein, Hellraiser's just on another level, man. Like, the entire team looking so crisp.
Yeah, for sure. And as said, this is them now proceeding their way to the playoffs. Of course, kicking it off tomorrow, we will be having the Galaxy Racers facing off against Heretics. One of those teams will be eliminated, and then the winner of that has to go on to face SKADE, and we will decide who is going to be heading through to the playoffs, and unfortunately, who will be out of the tournament. Of course, this is Group B. We have C and D to follow afterwards, so if you're not already following the channel, make sure you do so. And of course, check out the fantastic partners that you can see down below. They are there. Other than that, that's us done for the day. It's been a quick one. It's been a relatively easy one, and I hope you have a lovely evening filled with Counter-Strike. We will see you again soon.